Hey you! What up? Welcome to my channel. Welcome back. Maryam here. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the highly anticipated DANESSA MYRICKS Groundwork Defining Neutrals palette. That is not just an eyeshadow palette. It is actually a palette for the eyes, the brows, the face, and the lips. So duh, I am so here for it. I am into it. I've been waiting for this palette. I've heard such great things. It has gone viral all over the place. I am just hearing all this chatter about this palette left and right. So I'm excited to finally have gotten my hands on it. Thank you, DANESSA and team, for sending it over to me. So in this video, I'm gonna be playing with it, slapping it onto my face, and basically I'm gonna be testing it out in as many ways as possible. I'm gonna use it as an eyeshadow palette, also as a sculpting palette for my face, for my brows, for my lips, wherever and however. If you are into this video, if you are interested in this particular palette, here she is, then give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you aren't already, notification bell for those Wednesdays and Sundays videos, and now let's get into it. DANESSA MYRICKS Beauty Groundwork Defining Neutrals palette for the entire face. Let's hit it. All right, and let's open it up. We've got a giant mirror. This is a pretty heavy palette, I must say. And in it, I've already taken a look at this palette. What's interesting about it is that at first it looks like it's just 10 shades, but in fact, it's not 10 shades. It is 20 different pans. There is a larger and a slimmer pan in each of these windows. And basically, each of these windows has two different eyeshadow formulas. The left is a velvet pomade, which is meant to define, line, and shape your features, whether it's your eyes or your brows or even your face. And then the right side, or the right section, is the Shape and Fix powder. And that one is actually Upsolite infused. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, if you are familiar with DANESSA MYRICKS product, if you're familiar with her Yummy Skin Blurring Balm powder, or also the blush that I'm holding in my hand, then you know those products are infused with Upsolite, which is an ingredient that controls oils better than mica, better than talc. I must also add that this palette is totally talc free. Hello. I'm guessing this is probably the reason why you can actually use it all over the face, because it's safe for eye usage and also to use on your face, especially if you're oily like me. So very, very excited for this. Let's go over the rest of the details, such as the price. $65 is what I see here. But honestly, I think that's a pretty fair price considering how hefty weighing this palette is and how many shades we're working with. We have 10 of the velvet pomades and we have 10 of the Shape and Fix powders. There's also this really lovely message from DANESSA just about applying your face in the morning and painting it to face the world. I really like this. It resonated with me, so I'm going to show you a close-up so you can just pause and read it. And now let's get into the art. First of all, I am really proud of DANESSA and team. They are expanding. They are coming out with products quickly, but not too quickly, like enough that I get a chance to anticipate it. And not just me, I think everyone who loves makeup, who loves beauty, is really loving this brand as of lately. They've been coming out with such smart, such innovative, such user-friendly products that are not just for the artist, but also for the artist, but also with just a regular consumer in mind. I really, really appreciate that. It's just a joy. It is a pure joy to use DANESSA MYRICKS products every day the way that I use them. I use my Blurring Balm powder as a primer underneath my foundation. I'm wearing it today. And honestly, it just makes me feel better in my skin. That Blurring Balm powder is like my #1 favorite product for last year, for this year as well. I use it all the time, religiously. I won't even give up this guy. I will use the entire thing. And if you know, you know. All right, now that I've said all of that, let's actually test the palette. Right now on my face, I am wearing a very light layer of the Makeup by Mario foundation with the Blurring Balm powder underneath, like I said. So what I want to do next is grab a couple of smaller brushes for the face. I'm using these Sculpt by Spectrum in collab with Ash K. Holm brushes, number 10 and number 8. So I'm going to use this number 10 and pick up one of these Velvet Pomades powders. I'm going to go for this one called Chiseled. So this definitely feels a little bit creamier than an eyeshadow. Even picking it up from the pan, it's a really interesting consistency. Not quite a cream, not quite a powder, something in between. So I picked up just a little bit, and what I'm gonna do with this product is attempt to chisel out my jaw. I never really do this, but for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna go right along the line, and honestly, this is such a good shade. I can't tell if it's me or if it's the powder. All right, next I'm gonna do the same thing, but on the nose. Ooh, I like how subtle it is. This definitely resembles a shadow because it is such a cool tone, almost a gray tone. I'm gonna work that into my brow bone as well, just a little bit. And then I'm just gonna round out the tip of my nose, like that. Very, very, very subtle, but I see it. All right, next, I'm gonna go straight from my ear and a little bit across and add that little bit of shadow right underneath my cheekbone. Same thing from the tip of my brow into the temple, kind of parallel to this angle. Very subtle, but very nice. All right, let's make it match. Kind of like that and like that. Okay, next I'm gonna pick up a fluffier brush and I'm gonna dip into the shade called Sandstone. So again, this is a cream. I'm not even sure what I'm doing here, but maybe I'm trying to reverse contour just a little. Oh yeah, that is very visible on camera. Perhaps I did not need to do all that, but you see the capabilities. I'm gonna blend that out real quick with a little bit of that. That definitely more than cleaned up. That literally added a lot of light. So I'm actually thinking you could probably do this with a beauty sponge and it'll probably be a lot faster and easier than doing it with a brush. Also, my first impression is that, well, I have a giant face and these little pans are just not enough product for my giant face. I like to use a giant brush as opposed to a small brush for chiseling and for contouring and even reverse contouring. I like to use something as big as this and as big as this. The method of using tiny brushes in order to fit into these pans is gonna take forever for me. Although I see this feature as being really good for on the go, like if you need one palette to travel with, I could see this being really good and convenient, but I wouldn't necessarily use this in my daily life. Maybe for contouring smaller areas like the nose or perhaps underneath the lips just to add a little bit of a shadow. Yeah, but for chiseling out my forehead that I like to do with a giant brush that's clearly not gonna fit into any of these pans, you get my drift. But for smaller areas, this is perfect. Even gonna chisel out my eye real quick, add that little bit of a shadow here with that grayish color called chiseled. Boom. And I'm not even talking about the powders. The powders are even smaller. They're like half the size of the velvet pomades. If I want to dip my giant powder brush into this, it's just not gonna work. It's just too silly. So again, for a smaller area, if I want to highlight, you know, the bridge of my nose or in between my brows, I could probably get away with doing that. But for all over the face, perhaps a tiny little sponge or a tiny little puff will do. In fact, let's see what it can do. You get what I'm trying to say. Cute, but not exactly practical. All right, let's move on. I'm really curious to see how this will define my brows. So I'm gonna grab a brow brush or like something angled, something that I can actually use to get in between these wolfies. All right, I'm grabbing the Sculpt by Spectrum number 28 brush. I am going to dip into this dark shade here called Sculpted. So I'm going into the pomade first. I'm gonna grab a mirror because the palette is heavy, like I said. And what I'm gonna do here, my brows are already laminated. I used the Dominique Cosmetics brow gel. And I already kind of cleaned up underneath the brow with the Mario concealer. So now I'm kind of just going in between the hairs. And this is very easy and it is very, very intuitive. In fact, you can even create tiny little strokes. This, of course, will depend on the thickness or the thinness of your brush. But this is really, really easy to achieve, even on top of brows that are already laminated. So so far really like this method. I'm gonna try a different shade. This shade underneath called Bark. Oh my gosh, so soft. It is so soft and pillowy and cushiony. I really like the pomade for the brows, especially for my brows, because it applies so easily. I don't have to make my way in between my hairs. I can just easily paint on top and it kind of gets in between all the tiny little crevices. I feel like that was very, very easy and very successful. My brows are done. So now I want to pick up a tiny brush and I want to define my brow a little bit further, even though I already did so with the Mario concealer. I'm gonna try it with this shade Sandstone. I feel like that's also a very nice concealer-like shade. I'm gonna start on this brow first. Literally just chisel out, carve out that brow and blend it down. Boom. I love that. And actually, I must also add that once you start blending out the product with your finger, you can definitely tell how powdery it feels. It's not sticky and it's not a balmy finish whatsoever. It is totally matte. And it definitely works for the brows. Take a look at my little water thermos here. Yes, that is the swatch model in glitter form on my drinking bottle. And this was actually sent to me by one of my amazing, incredible supporters, Grace. She sent me two, one for me and one for the swatch model. And you guys, it actually has photos of me all over this thing and photos of Lee all over. And I just can't believe that someone actually took the time to put this together for me and send it to my P.O. box. I'm just so shocked. And honestly, my P.O. box is something that I never actually shared or talked much about here on the channel, even though the address is right there in the description box. I get tons of packages, tons of cards, mail from you guys, and also from brands, but I decided, why not actually talk about it and why not share what some of you have been sending me? I honestly feel so honored and I feel so special that you guys take the time to think about me, to support me, and to send me such positive messages and items that you make things for me. I just can't thank you enough. So just had to share that. And I think going forward, I'm gonna be talking about this more. I'm gonna be showing you guys just little tidbits here and there because it's what I do. I share my life here on YouTube. I also share makeup, and what better way to connect with you guys than through this. Okay. Back to the makeup. My consensus so far is that this palette is definitely good for the brows, definitely can be used on the face or smaller parts of the face, but I think it is a little too ambitious to call it a full face palette, given the fact that the pans are really small and facial features are generally a lot bigger and require a lot bigger brushes. I can't say that I am someone who will utilize that feature. Maybe if I'm traveling, but not really on a daily basis. So let's move forward. I'm wondering if I should test out the eyes or the lips next. Let's do the eyes since that's an obvious. I'm not even gonna prime my lids. I'm gonna go ahead and use this shade as my primer. I'm gonna apply that all over the lid. This definitely feels very, very cushiony. It is a powdery type of feeling, even though it feels like a cream in the pan. It's so unique. And I don't know if I can compare it to anything I've tried before. But anyway, that is the base. Next thing I'm gonna do, take a brush like this. I'm thinking I wanna use this powder here. Remember, the powders are infused with Upsolite, so they will lock in and control all that oil and shine. So now I'm gonna use that shade Mirage to define my eye socket and extend it just a little bit. This applies really, really easily. Very beautiful and very skin-like. So now I'm gonna experiment. I'm gonna take a smaller little brush and I'm gonna dip into the shade next to it. So this is Mirage. It has a bit of a silver fleck happening. Or maybe that's not a silver fleck. Almost a little fibrous. Maybe that's just the formula. All right, so something weird I just noticed, and I'm gonna show you a close-up. So this shade Mirage that I just dipped into looks like it has some sort of a silver fleck on top of it, but it's actually not a fleck. It is the same thing that you see here in the shade Harvest. It almost looks like fibers. You see that? And then I can kind of rub it off. But I don't know, maybe this is just some sort of oxidization. I don't know if I should be concerned, but like I said, once you remove that top layer, it kind of goes away. All right, I'm gonna actually dip into the deeper shade, Harvest. I'm gonna use that to define my eye socket just a little bit, like that. Ooh, and kind of blend. Okay, that was really, really easy, really intuitive. I'm gonna do that on the other eye. So what's cool about these two formulas is that I can really see myself getting very creative with cut creases and line work and all the different possibilities of shadow and light. I can see myself getting graphic with it, so that's really fun. Even though all the shades are neutral, I think neutrals is precisely what you need if you want to define. So now I'm actually going to go back to that lighter shade again with the cream. I'm going to cut this crease. I haven't cut a crease in so long, but now I want to. And I'm not even so much cutting the crease as I'm just brightening the lid and I'm just cleaning up that line underneath. All right, I guess I am cutting the crease. So now that I've completely changed my eye shape, I made myself look like I have huge lids, which I do not have. But man, the power of makeup and the power of illusion can really make you believe anything. I'm catfishing a giant crease over here. Cute. So now I really want to whip out my Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette and I want to slap some glitter on top of that lid. This is what it's making me want to do. I'm feeling like this would be a really, really good palette for like a bridal look along with the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude. Like, this is a great helper palette, if you will, because all the shades are matte. None of them are really dressy or glittery. All the finishes are the same. I was actually thrown off because I thought that Harvest and Mirage had some sort of a glitter to it, but in fact it wasn't glitter. It was just that fiber or that fibrous finish that was like laying on top of the actual pan. But now that I got a chance to play around, now that I know that it's just those two shades, now I'm getting a better idea. So now I'm gonna take a flat definer brush and I'm gonna dip into the powder, chiseled, and I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow and definition right underneath my eye, underneath the lower lash line, just like that, and kind of wing it out from the bottom. Then I'm gonna go back into Bark. Gonna load that up on the same brush. I'm gonna use that as a wing and also as a liner. Okay, so this is very easy, very intuitive, and I think this is also great for that smoky liner, kind of like that. Gonna do the same thing here, just winging it out, smoking it out, connecting it to that lower lash line just like that, and I think it's starting to take shape. I'm gonna grab an actual liner brush, and now I'm gonna test out the black. So this is definitely softer than your liquid liner. You could definitely get a precise line with it, but you'll need a super precise brush. But because it's still a cream, and this is not a gel type of cream, this is still a powdery type of cream, the effect you get is still that of a powder shadow liner. Or think like kohl pencil liner, something like that. Something a little bit smudgier and a little bit less precise and softer. Good thing there is absolutely no fallout with any of these shadows because they're still not exactly a powder. I'm gonna define my outer corner, and then I'm gonna take another powder shadow, perhaps this one chiseled, and then just soften that. Ooh, I'm just gonna indulge. I'm gonna grab my I Need a Nude palette from Natasha. I'm gonna reach for this shade Sheen. And I already did review that one. I just want to see what this glitter eyeshadow would look like over my lid if I apply it right on top of that Danessa shadow. And I was right. It looks absolutely gorgeous and so bridal. Here for it. So now with the powder sandstone, I'm just adding light to wherever light is needed. Brow bone, inner corner, tip of the nose, nose bridge, in between the brows. You're seeing it, right? All right, and now let's move on to the lips. For the lips, I already have my lips lined, but that's okay. I'm gonna go for this shade called Core. I'm gonna go for the pomade shade first. Pomade or pomade? This is a really nice terracotta type of color. But I actually don't have too many lip liners of the shade. And yeah, you can easily define your lip shape with it. I gotta say, this is a very unusual, but kind of a necessary shade for the lips. It's definitely giving some sort of a 90s grunge moment. And now I wanna go a little bit more brown. So I'm gonna dip into Harvest, the shade next to it, and just define the outer corners a little bit on the cubist bow. And there we have it. All right, so to finish up this look, I am gonna go ahead and add a little blush. I feel like I need blush. So I'm gonna grab this Too Faced Tequila Sunset. Ooh, pretty. I'm gonna add just a little bit of color to my cheeks. I appreciate the monochromatic, but I always like at least one pop of color on my face. I like to have contrast. And for the lips, I'm gonna use Danessa's Golden Hour Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Flushed, which is a blush. Ooh. And now I'm gonna curl my lashes, and I'm gonna show off my final look, and I'm gonna give you guys this verdict that you've been waiting for very patiently. Jones Road Mascara. And here is my final look. And let's talk about this look. My initial first impression of the palette was that I thought it was a little ambitious to use it for the face, given how small the pans are. They simply don't fit a large face brush like what I use for my face. But if you want to use it for smaller areas like the nose or around the mouth or the brows, you can definitely use a smaller brush, and that is totally fine. But after playing around with this palette, and then after seeing the name one more time, Groundwork, I kind of got it. The concept just came together for me. This palette will lay down your groundwork for your makeup. This will define your features, specifically your eyes, your brows, even your lips, even your face, if you don't mind using a small brush. And then of course you can build from there. You can add color, you can add different textures, you can add powder, or you can keep it monochromatic and skin tone like. So this is definitely a makeup artist friendly palette, especially if you are a bridal makeup artist and need to lay down the groundwork for your bride. If you need to contour, to chisel, to sculpt out the features or the eyes and then add other products on top, this is perfect for that. This is also really great for those of you who go to work, who work in a very professional type of environment where you can't necessarily have too much color or too much textures or glitter or whatnot. If you need something flesh tone to just define your features, to make yourself look more awake, this is the palette for you. Yes, you could probably keep it in your bag and travel with it, but I will say it is a little bit on the heavy side. So for me personally, I would leave it at home, but this is something that I would totally travel with, and I would use all of these eyeshadows as brow products, as liners, and also as shadows. I don't know if there's too many options for the lips in this palette, for my skin tone at least, but the option that I did try, I really do like. I think it's fun and a little throwbacky, if you know what I mean. So to me, this is in fact a very innovative palette. Easy to use, though I can't say it is the most intuitive palette I've ever used. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if there's one criticism I could give this palette, it is that I wish the pomade shade was actually the smaller shade. I wish it was flipped. I wish the powder was a little bit bigger so that I can actually dip larger brushes into it. And I wish the pomade shade was a pinch smaller, because chances are I'm only going to be using those shades for detailing the eyes or my brows. So I kind of wish those two formulas were flipped. I wish I got more of the powder and less of the pomade, and then it would make a little bit more sense to me personally. Other than that, I thought the shades were great. I really like the concept. I like the fact that it's different from everything else that you've seen. It is a nude eyeshadow palette that leans very rich brown, and I appreciate that. I like the fact that there's less taupes and less pinks. In fact, there is no pinks. I like that it's more brown leaning. That makes me feel like it's a little bit more inclusive of all skin tones, and everyone can actually put it to good use. So that is my story. And if I'm looking at the overall picture, if I'm, I guess, judging my own review of this, I can say that if you understand the concept of groundwork, of applying your base makeup and then building on top of it, then this is genius. If you're someone who's just looking for fun, beautiful makeup to play with, I will say there are other options. There are different palettes out there to give you more variety and to give you more finishes. And guess what? Danessa definitely has that covered. So with that said, you guys, I think this is a great addition to the Danessa Myricks beauty line. Overall, there isn't anything like this in her arsenal as of yet, so I welcome this palette. I think it's amazing. I have a feeling that I will be using it a lot, and in this video I was just exploring, but I have a feeling that going forward, I will probably be dipping into it a lot. So with that said, I am gonna wrap up this very long video. I hope this was helpful to you guys. I really wanted to show you all the different ways that you can use this palette. I kind of went into it blindingly, not knowing what you can do. I actually hadn't even watched that many videos on this palette. I've just seen it all over the place. I've seen the buzz, and now I get it. So with that said, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna say farewell to you guys. I will see you in my next video. Let me know what you wanna see next, even though Faves X Fails is coming. But still, let me know. Sound off below. Peace out. I'm out. Deuces!